So hello everyone, so moving over to video number 2 now, so I'm carrying on discussing the different approaches to the neurodiversity paradigm, and now I'm going to just talk briefly about intersectional justice neurodiversity. So this emphasises the entanglement of all forms of oppression. So the idea that, you can't look at oppression in isolation. All oppression is entangled, whether it be oppression because of the colour of your skin, oppression because of your sexual orientation, oppression because of your religious status, oppression, maybe if you're an immigrant, oppression because you're poor, oppression because of disability, oppression because of being woman, and so on and so on and so on. I say all oppression comes from the same, needs to be looked at as stemming from the same source. It's kind of all entangled. You need to look at it, oppression as oppression. Obviously, I guess you could say that maybe one of the disadvantages of that approach is that it could lose specificity. Yes, oppression can be interlinked, but also different types of oppression will have different, be different, God, I can't think of what words. My brain's gone. They'll each have their own specific challenges, and be played out in different ways. This approach argues that the benefit of a neoliberal approach is that it does help certain individuals, empowering them, for example, in employment. So saying a neoliberal approach very much does focus on empowering individuals within a current framework of capitalism without challenging the system. So obviously it can only achieve limited success in that area because, you're not challenging the system. It can only help certain individuals, those who are the most able. So by definition it's elitist, but it can still help certain individuals. We'll give it credit where credit's due, but it doesn't help everyone. But it does little to challenge the underlying social structures that led to the neurodiversity movement becoming necessary in the first place, so the argument goes. And it might actually even undermine the efforts of other approaches by reinforcing an ever so slightly more inclusive version of the current system. And as I said in other videos, this is basically what is called diversifying inequality. So it's still, the system itself hasn't been changed. All you're doing is diversifying the system. Opening a system up to more people, yes, making a system more diverse, but the inequality is still there. The structures of oppression is still there. It's kind of very much window dressing and tinkering. You're not really changing that much. Okay, so I just want to briefly address some of your comments, and this will have to be very brief. So one of you says that you've come across a thread on Twitter by Oil and Gas Industry Society of Petroleum Engineers, who said, conditions like autism, ADHD, OCD are not defects or disorders that need to be cured, but rather another dimension of human diversity that unlocks different strengths. And you were saying how absolutely ludicrous and absurd that is, and I completely agree. This is as you say, this is an example of capitalist co-option, elitist and ableist. I'm not quite, autism and autism and ADHD, that's problematic enough, but OCD, that's a serious, debilitating mental illness. Like, seriously, how can that be seen as a good thing? You'd want a cure for OCD. I want a cure for OCD. It's hell. They don't know what OCD is, clearly. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy, I mean, seriously. So that's an example of how this neurodiversity paradigm, maybe I would say it's misinterpretation, because I don't think people in the neurodiversity movement necessarily themselves believe this, but it's misinterpretation by capitalist organisations, you know, to mean that these conditions are somehow completely good, like they're superpowers or something, like they don't have any problems. It's really dangerous, and it's sending out completely the wrong message, and it introduces a new layer of stigma, because people are going to find it harder to get support, they're going to find it harder to be believed. It's very negative, and it particularly affects those who are most disabled, particularly those who don't look disabled but are disabled. And following on from that, it's actually the same commenter, but I'll do this one as well because they're kind of interlinked. You also mentioned the trivialising effects of a neurodiversity paradigm. So recently you went to speak to your GP about the results of an ASD screening, and the GP said that as autism is a difference and a very wide spectrum, which is very common, there are therefore no treatments for autism and no autism-specific support. Also, as all support is needs and not diagnosis focused, he said. Therefore, there isn't any gain in seeking a formal assessment. He then said that as the screening showed very significant signs of autism, and that is his opinion, you would almost certainly be diagnosed if you were assessed, there is even less reason to seek assessment, and that you should just assume you are autistic and self-diagnose. But you want to understand your difficulties, and you want them officially documented, so that if in the future, if you lose your support network, your husband and your mum, you would be able to get the support you need. And the GP's response was that diagnosis wouldn't make any difference, but there was no way that you were self-diagnosed, as you do not feel honest doing so, and so excuse me, and so you will pursue an assessment. Yeah, I was quite shocked when I read that comment, actually. And I do hope you managed to put your GP straight, maybe send him a letter or something, because really that is completely inaccurate. Like, autism's a really serious condition, and it's not something that people should be encouraged to self-diagnose, essentially. You know, this is kind of really, really worrying and troubling, you know, that these serious medical conditions which, you know, affect a person's whole life trajectory are being so diminished and just treated like identities or personality structures or quirks, whatever. It's really very worrying. And you are really very right to, you know, to persist and seek, you know, that official assessment. But, you know, to be told, you know, I mean, it's just really awful. I mean, for starters, there needs to be a lot more funding into autism and into treatments and supports and stuff, because people shouldn't be left without proper support. People should be getting the right support, and people should be getting access to proper, thorough assessments, essentially. It's a bit. I'm actually in a similar situation to you. I'm pursuing an assessment for possible ADHD, and again, I would not self-diagnose because I think self-diagnosis is wrong. I don't know if I have ADHD. I literally don't know, and I'm open to either possibility. I might not have it, and I might have it. I don't know. Literally, I can't know because I'm not a doctor. So, you know, I'm humble. Humble pie is so important. Like, we don't know. I don't know. All I know is that I do exhibit a lot of traits, and I identify with a lot of traits, and the traits I do have cause me a lot of problems in life. Executive dysfunction, problems paying attention in conversations, being fidgety, not being able to concentrate on stuff, like moving around a lot, and those sort of things. And also as a child, I had a history of that as well, even more so than now, where, you know, I couldn't, essentially was never sitting still and stuff. So yeah, I wonder, but I don't know. I might not have it. It might be part of my autism. That's a possibility as well, because after all, most autistic people have traits of ADHD. It's kind of would be rare and strange for an autistic person not to have traits. And obviously before 2013 you couldn't get diagnosed with both anyway, and I got diagnosed autistic back in 2008, so I couldn't have been assessed back then because that wasn't possible. So I can't self-diagnose with ADHD. I don't know if I have it, I might not have it, you know, I literally might, all I want to know is to basically find out either way, yay or nay, and the only way I can do that is to have an assessment with someone who knows about ADHD. It's not, I've been put on the waiting list, and it's a really, really, really long wait, but that's you know, I'm doing it on the NHS, but that is fine with me because I'm in no rush to know, and I'm not taking medication or anything. I don't want medication. It's simply more just to inform my support, and either way, you know, whatever the outcome is, if I don't have it, it will still be interesting experience to essentially find out, you know. You know, because I might just have traits and it might just be part of my autism, and that's cool. I just want to know either way. So I'm open to any possibility because I'm not fixed on any outcome, essentially. And that's a problem with some of these people in the neurodiversity movement. They get so fixed on outcomes. Like, you see this a lot, and they self-diagnose, and it's just so wrong. And like, as you said, you know, it's not honest to do that. Like, you need a doctor, you need an expert, and I would want a thorough assessment, you know, because these are, you know, you want to know, you know, I've got a lot of notes from my childhood. My mum kept a lot of notes and stuff. But, you know, I want them to speak to my dad, I want them to speak to other people. You know, I'd want a thorough, proper, big deal assessment, because I don't want them to say yes just for the sake of saying yes, you know, because it might not be the case, and I don't want to be given a label I don't have. That'd be the last thing I want. I just want to, for me, I just want to know either way. And yeah, so that is really bad practice, what your GP said, and I'm so glad that you are going forward with your assessment in your case for the autism one. I think that's really good that you're doing that. You know, I guess you're in a similar situation to me, apart from I'm looking at possible ADHD to find out either way, so I guess we're both in a similar situation, just for different conditions. And because obviously there is a lot of overlap between ADHD and autism. And what am I trying to say? Okay, the other thing, by the way, I thankfully do have a very supportive GP who understands the gravity of autism and these other conditions. Yeah, so he confirmed I'm on the waiting list for ADHD assessment, but said, you know, it could take a long time. But like I said, that doesn't bother me at all. I don't care whether I wait 3 years, 4 years. I think also, obviously, because it's not like a pressing thing, it's just for me more just to add extra information to my understanding of myself, you know, so I know either way, you know, it just adds clarity to my understanding of myself, I guess. It's not like, you know, so I don't mind having to wait. And yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd add that. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Do let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll try and do some more comments videos next time, and also I've got a few other things to discuss as well. So thank you for watching.